To the US, and there's just a week until elections in some constituencies, which are being closely watched to see where voters stand ahead of next year's midterm elections. The race that's been getting the most attention is for the New York City mayoralty. Polls show the newcomer, Zohran Mamdani, in the lead. He's a self-declared democratic socialist whose candidacy has electrified grassroots supporters and alarmed some in the Democratic Party establishment. Our correspondent Janelle Dumalaon reports.
It may be a local election, but the world's eyes are on voters in New York City and on the man who could soon become their next mayor. A surge in popularity has transformed Zohran Mamdani into the face of a political movement pitting bold, progressive ideas against centrist policies. That's triggered a debate within his party on whether Mamdani is the next great hope and if this is the kind of momentum Democrats can build upon nationally. From the heart of America's capital of capitalism, Mamdani focused on everyday concerns for New Yorkers.
Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... We will make our city one where every person who calls it home can live a dignified life.
His mastery of social media virality means he reached millions of New Yorkers, with many saying his message resonated with them.
He's for the working class, so that's enough for me.
His plan makes the most sense for this to be a city we can all afford to live in again.
Exactly. He's the one that's most in touch with what New Yorkers are talking about, not just what sounds good and not just what suits him.
But while some see him as the party's future, others see a political risk, warning that his ambitious plans could prove costly and hand Republicans easy ammunition. President Donald Trump himself has taken aim, calling Mamdani a communist and threatening to cut New York's funding.
The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window.
Even as liberal New York may embrace Mamdani's vision, not everyone is convinced his ideas can win elsewhere. Even within his own party, support came slowly. It took months to get endorsements from Governor Kathy Hochul and House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. But whether his model is widely applicable or not, there's a lesson Democrats might take from Mamdani.
Whether you're a progressive or a centrist, you have to give people something to vote for, something that is going to make the common voter's life better. And that's what you really have to talk about, whether you're doing it through virality or you're doing it through a traditional political campaign.
Come November 4, that pitch to improve people's lives could very well get Mamdani over the finish line. Then the real test would come, governing. Before he finds out how well his policies translate elsewhere, he would first need to learn whether they work for New Yorkers, the people to whom he's promised so much.
Well, that report from our correspondent, Janelle Dumalaon, who joins us now from Washington, D.C. Welcome, Janelle. As you mentioned, the Democratic establishment initially slow to get behind Mamdani. Is he showing them a new path to appeal to voters?
Well, Phil, he's certainly showing them a path to appeal to voters. He consistently hammered home his affordability message in a city where cost of living really is the pressing issue. He met Gen Z voters where they were on social media, but some would argue that his campaign looked like a campaign is supposed to look like. Basically, he made a bet on what voters wanted and found ways to talk to them about how he might be able to deliver that. But what the Democratic establishment would be watching out for now is what the turnout of older, moderate voters will do to Mamdani's lead, because that really does say something about how a progressive candidate like Mamdani would be able to unite voters in a big tent party like the Democrats. Because if it doesn't work in an ultra-liberal city like New York, then where would it work? So that is going to be the real test, Phil.
OK, and we heard the president commenting on Mamdani's policies and views, even floating the idea of looking into his U.S. citizenship, apparently. How unusual is it for a president to take such a close interest in a local election?
Involvement in itself is not unheard of. History does have a few examples of presidents, for example, making endorsements in mayoral races. But there is nothing usual about the level of focus that President Trump has put on Zohran Mamdani. Presidents are usually not in the business of calling mayoral candidates communist lunatics. Now, as we mentioned in the report, he's threatened to cut off federal funding. He's threatened to deploy the National Guard. But on the one hand, a lot of that is involvement, yes, but some would also argue that this could also be seen as interference, essentially because this is a threat to New York voters. Now, a lot of this has to do with the figure of Mamdani himself. Mamdani is an economic populist, but on the opposite side of the spectrum as Trump, and as such, he could be seen as a natural foil to Trump. But a lot of the attention that Trump has on Mamdani also has a lot to do with the fact that we're talking about New York, Trump's hometown and the base of his business empire. As such, this mayoral race really does seem to occupy a special place in the president's mind.
Thanks for that, Janelle. Janelle Dumalaon in Washington.